focus. Now, when you are like trying to put like the right kind of inputs to the machine and you are giving it time, what will start happening is, during this period, right, you will start to notice that there are a lot of distractions. This is another thing that will kill a lot of entrepreneurs or anybody trying to succeed in general, right? So what happens is, now over here, when I was like trying to grow my business, right, I understood that, okay, I have one source of traffic that's giving me consistent leads. I have one way of actually turning those leads into sales. And I know if I just do more of this, I can scale. But during this time, you start to hear whispers from these Twitter birds all around. A lot of people will try to tell you to change your approach because this period becomes super boring and you start thinking that, okay, I'm not seeing any kind of gratification, so I might as well change my pathway and try to listen to all these other gurus out there claiming some different kind of approach that will magically solve my problem. Now, this happens when you are trying to, let's say, do dieting as well. For instance, if you're trying to do dieting, somebody might tell you that, hey, the diet that you're following is actually wrong. You should try paleo, or you should try out keto diet, or you should try out intermittent fasting, or you should try out carb cycling or low carb diet or something like that. And that might distract you from the main pathway that you are set on. And these things are basically called as shiny objects, right? Or people who suffer from the problem of distraction and people who are not able to actually focus, right? During the time when it's super important, right? Before you see this growth curve, right? A lot of people just lose out, right? It's kind of like that meme that you've seen on the internet where this person is trying to like mine for gold and gold is literally right there. But that person decides to give up and go a different pathway, okay? So this is kind of like how it looks like, right? So imagine this like pizza, right? You only have one thing in common with me, and we all have this one thing in common with Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, and all the richest of the richest people on earth, which is that we all have 24 hours, right? So we are given these 24 hours equally thanks to mankind or the universe or whatever, right? Now, what you decide to do with these 24 hours will determine what your future will be, right? Now, during this pathway, when, let's say, I was getting started, right, and I start seeing like, okay, I'm focusing on results, but I'm not seeing that exponential growth, a lot of people start telling me that, Rohan, you know what, you should slice this time of yours, right, which is like a pizza, and slice it into multiple buckets. So, for example, some people used to tell me, Rohan, you should do podcasts. Some people would tell me that, Rohan, you should speak on stage. Some people would tell me do email marketing. Some people would tell me that, do blogging. Some people will tell me start a SaaS company, right? Some people will tell me that, Rohan, you should do a DFI company, right? Some people might tell me that you should get into affiliate marketing, right? And some people might tell me that, Rohan, you know what, you should like probably launch another product or something like that. And as a result of this, think about this, right? If I was to divide my time into so many buckets, let's say what will happen? My 24 hours, let's say I'm putting 10% into speaking on stage, 10% I'm putting into, the product, or sorry, not the product, but like the podcast. And then 10% I'm putting into email marketing. And then 10% I'm putting into, let's say, blogging, 10% into my SaaS company, 10% into my DFI company, and then 10% into my affiliate program. And then let's say I launch another level 2 or 3 or whatever, I'm putting 10% time over here. And as a result of this, all my attention is now completely divided. And what will happen now is I won't be able to make substantial progress, and I won't be able to experience this wonder of compounding, which I talked about earlier on, because I decided to change my pathway, right? It's kind of like, you're putting money every month on mutual funds or whatever, and then or putting money into like the SIP index, and then suddenly it's going well, but before you see the compounding effect really take place, you decide to withdraw your money and stop doing it, right? So this is what a lot of people do. And as opposed to what I did is I took my time, right, and I decided to just like completely focus, right, 100% in just one direction, which was, for me, one traffic source, right? I'll just call this as TS, which for me was like ads, right? At that point of time, I decided to like put all my energy into just making sure that I can create the best goddamn ads on earth for my industry, and just get a lot of leads through that. And then I decided to just put in my focus on my conversion mechanism, which was basically sales, right? So I decided to master one-on-one sales, and then customer success. This is another area where I decided to put my focus in, right? And rather than doing so many different kind of things, just by focusing on a few important things that move the needle the furthest, right? What happened is, people were looking at me over here and were just like not even talking about me. And then suddenly, I think in 2022, when, some of the biggest names started joining us, people started wondering, how exactly did that happen, Rohan? What happened? It's because of the boring stuff that I did over here, and it's because of me saying no, right? This is the key word, right, that I want you to remember over here. Saying no to all these distractions, right, that allowed me to focus my time and energy into this. And honestly, this even included saying no to, sometimes going out. I remember 3 New Years back to back, I was sitting at home and fighting some war within my business that was happening. Sometimes our tech system would crash, something or the other would happen. And I would do that. And there have been times when I had to say no to all the fun things out there so that I could dedicate a lot of my focus and energy so that I can experience this exponential growth, right? So the key lesson that I want you to derive out of this is the first thing that you must understand is that you must focus on evolution, and to, if you want to grow in life, that's what's going to lead to complete happiness, and it's going to make sure that you're not depressed, right? So aim for some sort of progress in life, right? It may or may not be you becoming a millionaire, but point is that you must see some level of progress in your life.